we do have our lead story happening in the Pacific. We have Hurricane Kiko, which is now a Category 2 hurricane and is moving closer and closer to Hawaii. Well, we will have live reports this morning coming out of Hawaii, so stay with us here on Fox Weather. There's been a state of emergency declared over the weekend in preparation. Even though the storm will be tracking north of the islands, we will be impacted by very dangerous surf, and we also are expecting some rain from the outer bands of Kiko. That is a live look this morning where you can see the waves kicking up. We're anticipating this to be passing north of the islands tomorrow and Wednesday, but you can clearly see the close approach.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, this was a gorgeous-looking storm on satellite, especially in the middle of the eastern Pacific, eventually crossed into the central Pacific a few days ago. But it's the cooler waters, the wind shear. You can already see how that's eroding the southeastern side of this storm. So at one moment, this was a powerful Category 4. Now we're down to Category 2. The likelihood is as it passes to the north of Hawaii, it will be a Cat 1. But because this is such a small storm, and when you put it into perspective, Hawaii, I mean, 10% chance of only seeing tropical storm force winds. The odds are we won't even see tropical alerts for the islands.
Yeah, NHC reflecting that in their discussion in the overnight hours that we likely won't see any watches or warnings. What we could see is an impact with coastal flooding. We have a high tide cycle that's coinciding with a full moon, and that means that the impact of that rising water could be elevated because Kiko is going to be to the north. Looking at our wind speeds, by tomorrow morning, we're at 65 miles per hour. So that's a tropical storm. So we're going to go from a Cat 2 to a tropical storm fairly quickly within the next 24 hours. That's the impact of those strong winds and the cooler water temperatures. I will say we do have a pocket of warm water located just about there. But you'll notice in the forecast from the National Hurricane Center, it does not allow for strengthening, and that's because the wind shear element, because the wind shear is going to be increasing as well.
Well, you mentioned that pocket of warmer water. We had a storm track north of Hawaii this year that intensified due to those waters. So, just overall, again, just speaking to how that wind shear is going to be yet another limiting factor for this. Very good model confidence here. Yes, we've got a few straggling outliers that put this further south.
You go with the consensus.
Yeah. So we're definitely going with the consensus on this model trend. But, if it is just to the south of that consensus, that would only amplify potentially some of those big waves and the surf, or bring some bigger rain bands in. I mean, we could still see a little bit of moisture. At one moment over the weekend, the National Weather Service out of Hawaii was highlighting the fact that moisture values or precipitable water is going to be at the highest end of the spectrum for Hawaii as the storm brings in all of its moisture with it.
Yeah, and you know what? We have drought in Hawaii, so that could actually be a benefit. Haley, you had mentioned the winds, just so everybody can see this at home. Again, a less than 10% chance of tropical storm force winds. Those are winds stronger than 40 miles per hour. So the impact from Kiko is definitely going to be the surf impact, the coastal flooding that's going to coincide with the high tide cycle, and then, of course, the rain. But the rain could be a benefit given the fact that we are so dry. The water temperatures, that's why we're going to have this big cool down, as well as the wind shear. So those two elements are why this is not going to sustain itself as a Category 2. But here's a look at the real impact. It's those waves. They will be very large. So the east-facing beaches will be the ones that struggle the most, as we could have very large waves persisting all the way through about Thursday.